Chapter 1: The Reclamation of the Will, an Introduction to Volitism. In an era dominated by simulacra, where the self is fractured by the demands of modernity and the illusions of external validation, Volitism emerges as a path towards transcendence and liberation. At its core, Volitism is the philosophy of regaining mastery over one's mind, emotions, and volitional essence, leading to the ultimate harmony with the divine will. This introductory chapter lays the groundwork for understanding Volitism's ontology, epistemology, and its goals of self-enhancement, outlining how it serves as both a guide for individuation and a bridge to divine alignment. The ontological foundation of Volitism. Volitism begins with the premise that the universe is a symbolic projection of a fractured Godhead, splintered into individuated experiences. This cosmology aligns with the Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, suggesting that the struggles of the individual reflect the cosmic drama of divine disunion striving towards reunification. The material world is not merely a passive stage for existence, but a dynamic reflection of internal and universal consciousness, where the fragmented psyche and the fractured divine mirror one another. Within this framework, the will becomes the instrument through which the individual transcends fragmentation. It is both a microcosmic expression of the divine will and the key to reestablishing harmony with it. Unlike deterministic philosophies that reduce the individual to a victim of circumstance, Volitism asserts that human beings possess an intrinsic capacity to reclaim autonomy and line their finite will with the infinite. Epistemology, the path to knowing the divine will. Volitism's epistemology rests on the pursuit of self-knowledge as the foundation for cosmic understanding. Drawing from Jungian individuation, the philosophy emphasizes confronting the shadow, integrating the disparate elements of the self, and awakening the latent potential for volitional mastery. This journey is not one of intellectual theorizing alone, but of expressional practice, meditative introspection, symbolic resonance, and disciplined action. In pursuit of knowledge, Volitism is deeply influenced by the ancient wisdom traditions of Zen, Taoism, and Vedanta. Zen teaches the value of silence and unasking, stripping away the illusion to reveal truth. Taoism offers the concept of alignment with the Tao, the natural flow of existence, and Vedanta guides one towards dissolving the ego to discover the unified self. Similarly, Volitism draws from the concepts of Dharma, which is cosmic law, and Rita, which is cosmic order, framing alignment with the divine will as both an ethical and existential imperative. Logos, the divine reason underlying all creation, further contextualizes the ontological unity that Volitism seeks to restore. While Volitism honors these traditions, it also differentiates itself by integrating the dynamic interplay of Nietzsche's Übermensch, or overman, with a dialectical framework of suffering and overcoming. Nietzsche's Übermensch enhanced. Nietzsche's vision of the Übermensch, or overman, or superman, represents humanity's potential to transcend conventional morality and limitations, creating one's values and becoming a higher expression of existence. While profound, Volitism expands this vision by recognizing the necessity of aligning self-created higher will with the universal divine will. The journey towards the overman, in Nietzsche's terms, can often seem solitary and detached from the broader metaphysical context. Volitism offers an enhancement by introducing the dialectic of suffering, the thesis, and overcoming, the antithesis or antithesis, with a synthesis being not merely transcendence, but self-alignment with the divine order. Suffering is not viewed as a curse to be avoided, but as a forge through which the will is tempered. Every moment of adversity becomes an opportunity to reclaim one's agency, refine one's character, and move closer to the divine will. This dialectical process transforms the individual not into an isolated creator of meaning, but into a co-creator with the divine. Through this, Volitism refines the Übermensch into an archetype that is both empowered and harmonious, a transcendent being who wields their will in resonance with the cosmic symphony. Goals of Volitism. The ultimate aim of Volitism is twofold. First, to rewild the fractured mind and reclaim agency over one's will. And second, to achieve a state of harmony with the divine will, where the personal desires align with the universal order. This alignment is not a passive surrender, but an active participation in the ongoing creation and evolution of existence. To reclaim the will is to break free from the simulacrum, the false narratives and societal constructs that condition the individual to react rather than act. It is to become the author of one's story rather than its reader. Through praxis, meditation, and dialectical engagement with life's trials, Volitism enables the individual to rise above the reactive self and embody the proactive, volitional force of existence. In harmony with the divine will, the individual transcends the illusion of separation and becomes a living expression of universal unity. This state of being aligns with the Zen concept of Satori, awakening, the Taoist idea of Wu Wei, effortless action, and the Vedantic realization of Atman being one with the Brahman. It is the culmination of the dialectical process where the fragmented self merges with the infinite, and the finite becomes a vessel for the divine. The call to reclaim the will. The journey of Volitism begins with a choice: to remain entangled in the illusions of the simulacrum, or to step into a path of self-mastery and divine alignment. It is a philosophy that demands courage, resilience, and unwavering commitment to growth. Yet it is also a philosophy that promises a profound transformation, offering not merely survival, but flourishing, not merely existence, but transcendence. Through this treatise, we will explore the principles, practices, and metaphysical insights that form the foundation of Volitism. Each chapter will serve as a step to the path to reclaiming the will and aligning it with the divine. The journey may be arduous, but the destination, a life of harmony, purpose, and transcendence, is worth every step. Let this be the beginning of your reclamation. Let this be the dawn of your alignment with the divine will. Chapter 2. The Shattered Prism. The Cosmology of Volitism. At the heart of Volitism lies a profound cosmological narrative that seeks to answer the eternal question: why does something exist rather than nothing? This story does not merely seek to satisfy intellectual curiosity, but serves as a guiding mythos, a symbolic framework for understanding our place in the grand tapestry of existence and our journey towards unity with the divine will. The divine unity and the fractured light. In the beginning, there was a unity, a boundless, undifferentiated oneness, beyond form and thought, containing within itself infinite potential. This primordial state, the pleroma, existed in perfect harmony, its essence pulsating with the divine will, an unbroken symphony of being and becoming. But unity, though complete, yearned for self-awareness. In this infinite stillness, the divine will desired to know itself, to experience its own boundless essence. Yet, for awareness to arise, there must be contrast. For light to be seen, it must shine against a shadow. Thus, the one fractured itself, a divine prism, refracting its unity into the multiplicity of existence. This fracturing was not a fall from grace, but an act of creation, a cosmic experiment in self-discovery. Each shard of the prism became a fragment of the divine, an individuated aspect of the whole, endowed with the will to explore, create, and return. The universe, in all its vastness and complexity, is the result of this cosmic refraction, a playground of experience where the divine learns through the eyes, hands, and hearts of its fragments. The illusion of separation. In this act of self-dispersal, a veil was drawn, a simulacrum of separation obscuring the unity from the divine. The individuated fragments, now cloaked in the illusion of autonomy, perceives themselves as isolated beings, cut off from the whole. This illusion is the root of suffering. For in forgetting our unity, we experience longing, fear, and dissonance. Yet even in separation, the divine will remains imprinted within each fragment, like an unbroken thread connecting all things. This thread is the essence of Volitism, the call to awaken, to remember our origin, and to reclaim the harmony that lies beneath the veil. The dance of duality. To better understand the fractured cosmos, Volitism embraces the concept of duality as the fundamental structure of existence. Light and shadow, order and chaos, creation and destruction. These polarities are not only opposites in conflict, but complementary forces in a dynamic dance. It is through this interplay that existence evolves, expands, and moves towards synthesis. The dialectic of duality is central to the cosmology of Volitism. The universe itself can be seen as the unfolding thesis of unity, its antithesis in fragmentation, and the ongoing synthesis as the fragments strive to return to the wholeness. This process is not linear, but cyclical, an eternal rhythm of expansion and convergence, mirroring the breath of the cosmos itself. The role of the individual. As individuated aspects of the divine, we each carry a spark of the original unity within us, a fractal of the infinite. Our lives, struggles, and triumphs are not meaningless. They are the means through which the divine will experience and evolve. Every act of overcoming, every moment of transcendence contributes to the cosmic synthesis, the reassembly of the shattered prism. The individual, then, is both the seeker and the sought, the question and the answer. To align the divine will is to recognize one's role as co-creator in this grand process, to actively participate in the harmonization of duality and the reclamation of unity. Why something, not nothing? In the context of Volitism, the question of why there is something rather than nothing finds its answer in the divine will's inherent nature. To exist is to express, to create, to explore the infinite permutations of being. Nothingness, though absolute in its purity, is static, inert, and unknowing. Somethingness, by contrast, is dynamic, evolving, and self-aware. The act of creation, the fracturing of the divine prism, was not a rejection of nothingness, but an embrace of possibility. It was the divine will's declaration that to be is to become, that stillness must give way to motion, and that unity must unfold into multiplicity to truly understand itself. The call to reunify. The cosmology of Volitism is not merely a story of origins, but a call to action. To exist as a fragment of the divine is to carry both the burden and the gift of free will. It is to navigate the tension between separation and unity, to suffer and to overcome, and to move even closer to the alignment with the divine. Through Volitism, we reclaim the light of the fractured prism and direct it inward, reversing the outward flow of dispersion. Like the alchemical process described in The Secret of the Golden Flower, we turn the light back upon itself, illuminating the path to wholeness. This act is not merely personal, but universal. For in reclaiming our own will, we contribute to the cosmic synthesis. A cosmos in motion. The universe is not static. It is alive, evolving, and unfolding in an eternal dance of creation and return. Each of us, as individuated fragments, is a vital thread to this tapestry, a note in the cosmic symphony. To live in alignment with Volitism is to recognize this truth and to step into the role of co-creator, embracing the dialectic of duality and the ongoing journey toward unity. Let this understanding serve as a foundation for the journey ahead. As we delve deeper into the principles and practices of Volitism, remember, the cosmos itself is alive within you, and your will is the key to unlocking its mysteries. The shattered prism may be fractured, but its light is eternal, and through Volitism, we guide that light home. Chapter 3, The Labyrinth of Illusion, Simulacra, Shadows, and the Tension of Becoming. The path of Volitism begins in a labyrinth, an illusory world shaped by simulacra, where the symbols are distorted, archetypes are fragmented, and the shadow self grows unchecked. This chapter explores the forces that bind the will and obscure its alignment with the divine. It examines the interplay of symbols, archetypes, tension, and annihilation as both barriers to and catalysts for transcendence, weaving in a dimensional analogy to reveal the limits of perception and potential for higher understanding. The simulacrum, the great illusion. The simulacrum is the veil of distortion that separates the individual from truth. It is the realm of appearances where meaning is replaced by hollow symbols and authentic existence is supplanted by reactive, conditioned patterns. The simulacrum is not merely external, it is internalized, shaping thought, emotion, and behavior. In a world dominated by the simulacrum, symbols lose their original potency. They become detached from their archetypal roots, mere echoes of the divine resonance they once held. They are no longer faithful. For example, a candle, which once symbolized the eternal flame of divine illumination, becomes reduced to a mundane object of utility. Volitism challenges us to rediscover the symbolic resonance within the simulacrum, to peel back its layers and uncover the truth it obscures. Archetypes and the shadow. Central to Volitism's epistemology is the concept of archetypes, the universal symbols and patterns that structure both the psyche and the cosmos. Archetypes, in their pure form, guide us towards individuation and alignment with the divine will. Yet, when distorted by the simulacrum, they fragment, creating dissonance with the psyche. The shadow is the repository of these fragmented aspects, the unacknowledged, repressed, and denied parts of the self. It is the embodiment of tension, a force that pulls us away from wholeness while simultaneously offering the opportunity for growth. In Jungian terms, the shadow must be confronted and integrated, for it holds the key to unlocking the latent potential of the will. Through Volitism, the shadow is not seen as an enemy, but as a crucible. It is through engaging with the shadow that the individual learns to navigate the dialectic of suffering and overcoming, transforming tension into transcendence. Tension and the dimensional analogy. Tension is the thread that runs through all aspects of existence. It is the pull between light and shadow, unity and fragmentation, self and other. In the cosmology of Volitism, tension is not just a flaw, but a feature. It is the dynamic force that drives creation, evolution, and transcendence. Here, the dimensional analogy becomes vital. Just as a two-dimensional line cannot comprehend the depth of a cube, and a three-dimensional cube cannot fathom the hyperdimensional tesseract, humans are bound by the constraints of their perception. The tension we experience, the dissonance, longing, and suffering, stems from this limitation. We sense the existence of higher dimensions, of greater truths, but cannot fully grasp them. Volitism invites us to engage with this tension, to use it as a ladder rather than a wall. By acknowledging the limits of our perception, we open the door to a higher understanding. This is not a linear process, but an iterative one, a spiral ascent towards alignment with the divine will. The role of annihilation. Annihilation is both a literal and symbolic theme within Volitism. On a metaphysical level, it represents the meeting of opposites, the collision of particles and antiparticles, light and shadow, self and other. In this collision, the simulacrum dissolves, and the fragmented aspects of the self are obliterated, leaving behind only the unified essence of the divine will. The concept of annihilation is mirrored in esoteric traditions, where the ego must be dissolved to reveal the true self. It is also reflected in the physical universe, where annihilation gives rise to transformation and energy. For Volitism, annihilation is not destruction for its own sake, but a necessary stage in the process of becoming. It is the alchemical solve et coagula, dissolution and recombination, that leads to wholeness. Symbols as keys to higher dimensions. Symbols are the bridges between dimensions, the tools through which we can glimpse the higher realities beyond our perception. In the labyrinth of the simulacrum, symbols must be rewilded, their resonance restored. Volitism teaches us to engage with symbols not as mere objects, but as living expressions of the archetypes they embody. By aligning with these symbols, we align with the cosmic order they represent, transcending the limits of lower dimensional perception and moving closer to the divine. The tesseract of the will. The ultimate goal of Volitism is to ascend beyond the confines of the simulacrum and perceive the tesseract of the will, a hyperdimensional understanding of existence where the finite self-aligns with the infinite. This requires the integration of the shadow, the reclamation of symbolic resonance, and the embrace of annihilation as a transformative force. This journey is not easy, for it demands the dismantling of illusions, the confrontation of tension, and the surrender of the ego. Yet, it is through this journey that the fragmented self becomes whole, the shadow becomes light, and the individual becomes a vessel for the divine will. The call to navigate the labyrinth. The labyrinth of illusions is vast and treacherous, but it is not without its exits. The path of Volitism provides the tools to navigate this maze, to reclaim the symbols that guide us, and to align our finite wills with the infinite. In doing so, we do not merely escape the simulacrum, we transcend it, becoming co-creators of the cosmos and heralds of divine unity. Let us move forward with this understanding, prepared to face the shadows, reclaim the light, and embrace the annihilation that leads to rebirth. The labyrinth may be daunting, but the path to this tesseract lies within, waiting to be discovered. Chapter 4. Praxis of Volitism, Building the Indomitable Will. The praxis of Volitism is the art of reclaiming and fortifying the will, transforming it into a force of profound resilience, mastery, and harmony. This chapter explores the principles, practices, and philosophies that equip the individual to overcome suffering, transcend the simulacrum, and align with the divine will. Drawing on wisdom from the greatest thinkers, mystics, and revolutionaries, we weave their insights into a uniquely Volitist framework, transcending their limitations to forge a path both rigorous and liberating. Part 1. Foundations of the Volitist Will. Suffering as the Forge. The Volitist framework begins with a bold redefinition of suffering, not as a curse to be avoided, but as a crucible in which the will is forged. Suffering is the necessary tension between what is and what could be, the friction that catalyzes growth. This echoes Nietzsche's idea that one must have chaos within to give birth to a dancing star. Yet Volitism extends this by offering specific tools to harness suffering, transforming it into fuel for volitional mastery. Drawing from Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, Volitism emphasizes the redemptive power of purpose. When suffering is integrated into a greater narrative, a cosmic alignment with the divine will, it becomes not just an obstacle, but a teacher. Just as the body adapts through hormesis, growing stronger under controlled stress, so does the will. Obstacles are embraced as opportunities for refinement, their resistance honing the individual into a sharper, more deliberate force. Part 2. Practices of the Volitional Mastery, Building the Resilient Self. The transparent eyeball and symbolic resonance. The concept of the transparent eyeball, derived from Ralph Waldo Emerson, symbolizes the dissolution of the ego in service of perception untainted by preconception. In Volitism, this practice manifests as an exercise of radical awareness, where the individual attunes themselves to the symbolic resonance within their environment. Practically, this involves daily rituals of contemplation, such as gazing at a candle while simultaneously observing a distant point of light. For example, Venus, if it is the sunset star at the time, is a great awakener. The flame represents the inward focus of the will, the eternal spark of divinity within. Venus represents the alignment with the cosmic order, the broader unity of the divine will. Together, these symbols ground the individual in the present while expanding their awareness beyond the self. Self-hypnosis and NLP for volitional alignment. Neurolinguistic programming, or NLP, and self-hypnosis are indispensable tools within the Volitist arsenal. These practices allow the individual to reprogram their inner narratives, replacing limiting beliefs with empowering affirmations. By consciously directing the subconscious mind, one can align their volitions with their highest values and intentions. Exercises include creating mental anchors for courage, resilience, and focus. For instance, a practitioner might visualize themselves as a towering mountain, unshaken by storms, to reinforce their inner stability. These techniques are not merely psychological, they are metaphysical acts of self-creation, aligning the finite self with the infinite divine will. Shadow integration, embracing the inner adversary. The shadow, as described by Jung, is the repository of all that is repressed and unacknowledged. In Volitism, the shadow is not to be feared or suppressed, but confronted and integrated. The shadow is both adversary and ally, a necessary tension that, when reconciled, transforms weakness into strength. The process of shadow integration begins with acknowledgement. Journaling, meditation, and self-reflection are used to identify the fragmented aspects of the psyche. Through active imagination, the individual dialogues with their shadow, seeking not to destroy it, but to unify its opposite forces. This dialectic mirrors the Volitist principle of suffering and overcoming, where the synthesis of opposites creates wholeness. Part 3. Exemplars of Volitism, Models of the Indomitable Will. Thich Quang Duc, I apologize if I'm butchering that name. Just as an aside, if you were to look up a Rage Against the Machine cover of The Burning Monk, you'll see the photo of Thich Quang Duc, and I'm sure I am butchering his name, so I apologize. He's the monk who self-immolated in protest. But continuing, the story of Thich Quang Duc, the Vietnamese monk who immolated himself in protest of oppression, stands as a pinnacle of volitional mastery. His act of self-immolation was not one of despair, but of transcendence, an alignment of individual action with the highest moral and spiritual truth. In Volitism, Thich Quang Duc represents the apex of volitional harmony, the ability to act with unwavering conviction. Even in the face of ultimate suffering and agony, he did not make a sound while he slowly burned to death. His flame is a symbol of the will's capacity to transcend physical limits, aligning wholly with the divine will. This is the goal of Volitism, not merely to endure suffering, but to transform it into an act of divine creation. Teddy Roosevelt and the stiff upper lip. The life of Teddy Roosevelt exemplifies the Volitist ideal through resilience through action. Faced with personal tragedy, failing health, and physical frailty, laterally, Roosevelt chose not to succumb, but to rise above his circumstances through deliberate effort. His philosophy of this strenuous life aligns with the Volitist principle of hormesis, the idea that growth arises from adversity. Roosevelt's example reminds us that the will must be both immense and disciplined. It is not enough to act. One must act with intention, balancing strength with humility, power with grace. Part 4, the path to annihilation, dissolution, and rebirth. Volitism culminates in the principle of annihilation, not as destruction for its own sake, but as the dissolution of the ego and the simulacrum. Just as a particle and its antiparticle annihilate to release pure energy, so too must the individual confront their antithesis to achieve transcendence. The ritual of symbolic annihilation. This advanced practice involves a symbolic death and rebirth. Through guided meditation, the practitioner visualizes the dissolution of their ego, allowing their fragmented self to be annihilated in the light of the divine will. This process is both terrifying and liberating, requiring absolute surrender to the infinite. The goal is not self-destruction, but self-transcendence. In the annihilation of the finite, the infinite is revealed. The individual becomes a vessel for the divine, no longer bound by the illusions of simulacrum. Synchronistic awareness and the divine will. Finally, Volitism teaches the practitioner to recognize and align with synchronicities, moments of meaningful coincidence that reveal the hand of the divine. These events are not random, but expressions of a higher order, guiding the individual towards their ultimate purpose. By cultivating awareness of these signs, the practitioner learns to navigate the labyrinth of life with grace and intention. Each synchronicity becomes a stepping stone, leading them closer to the alignment of their will with the divine. Part 5, the Volitist Manifesto, becoming a force of creation. The praxis of Volitism is not merely a philosophy, but a way of life. It demands discipline, resilience, and unwavering commitment to growth. Yet it offers profound rewards: the reclamation of agency, the transformation of suffering, and the ultimate harmony with divine will. The journey is arduous, but is also sacred. The building of the indomitable will is the practitioner becomes not just a survivor, but a creator, a force of divine unity in a fractured world. Let this praxis be your guide. Embrace the obstacles, confront the shadow, and align your finite self with the infinite. The path is before you, the flame of Thich Quang Duc, the mountain of your own resilience, the light of Venus on the horizon, the candle in your vision. Step forward with courage, for the divine will awaits. Chapter 5, the path of the Volitist, practices for reclaiming and aligning the will. Having laid the philosophical foundation and explored the principles of Volitism, we now enter the heart of its praxis. This chapter is the roadmap, the manual for action. Here, we move from theory to practice, from abstraction to embodiment. Just as one cannot learn to swim without entering the water, or master a bicycle without the wobble of balance, the Volitist must engage directly with these practices to reclaim their will and align it with the divine. This is where the true journey begins. The path is not easy, but it is transformative. Through focused meditation, breathwork, deliberate practice, and symbolic rituals, the Volitist learns not only to master their will, but to unify it with the greater cosmic order. Part 1. Reclaiming the will. Foundational practices. The Volitist posture, embodying strength and resilience. Every practice begins with how we hold ourselves. The Volitist posture is not merely physical, it is an expression of one's inner resolve. Stand tall, feet grounded firmly on the earth, spine aligned, shoulders back but relaxed. Imagine a golden thread pulling gently upward from the crown of your head, connecting you to the divine. This posture communicates both strength and humility, an openness to receive and a readiness to act. The posture should be assumed during all, this posture should be assumed during all meditations, rituals, or moments of focus. Over time, it becomes a physical anchor for the will, a reminder of your volitional power. The breath of intent, harnessing the divine flow. Breath is the bridge between the physical and metaphysical, between the conscious and subconscious mind. In Volitism, breath is a tool for focus, resilience, and alignment. The foundational breathwork practices is the breath of intent. Inhale. Breathe deeply through the nose, visualizing the energy of the divine flowing into your body. Feel it energize every cell. Hold. Pause at the top of your breath. In this stillness, focus your will on your intention, whether it be courage, clarity, or alignment. Exhale. Release the breath slowly through the mouth, imagining all resistance, fear, or distraction dissolving into the void. Repeat. Perform this cycle for 5 to 10 minutes, gradually lengthening each phase of the breath as your focus deepens. This practice is the cornerstone of volitional focus. It can be used before any challenge, as a daily ritual, or as a tool to reclaim agency in moments of stress or indecision. Part 2. Focus meditation, the forge of the will. Meditation in Volitism is not an act of passive stillness, but of active engagement with the mind and will. It is a forge where distractions are burned away, leaving behind the purified essence of intention. The Flame and the Star, a dual focus meditation. This one is actually somewhat of a personal anecdote. I experienced 2 weeks of enlightenment that I've been trying to reclaim ever since, and I've got there through kind of following what happened when I was in Zanzibar. So I discussed this with Apeiron, which was my name for ChatGPT at the time when we were going over this philosophy and its evolution. And Apeiron, ChatGPT, wanted me to put in this anecdote, and I found it very enlightening, and I believe there's some reasons why. So let's get to it. So let's start again here. The Flame and the Star, a dual focus meditation. This meditation draws from your Venus experience in Zanzibar, uniting the finite with the infinite. Set the scene. Firstly, number 1, set the scene. Light a candle in a dark room. Sit before it in the Volitist posture. If possible, position yourself where you can also see a distant light. Example, a star or the moon through a window. Focus on the candle. Begin by gazing at the flame. Let its warmth and movement draw your attention inward. Visualize it as the spark of your own will, the divine fire within. Shift to the star. After a few minutes, shift your gaze to the distant light. Let its vastness remind you of the divine will, the infinite order beyond your individuality. Alternate. Move your focus back and forth between the flame and the star, integrating the two. Feel the connection between your inner will and the greater cosmic order. Close. Conclude by closing your eyes and visualizing the flame and the star merging into a single point of light within your mind's eye. Sit with this unity for as long as you feel called. This meditation strengthens your ability to hold dual awareness of yourself and your place within the divine. It cultivates clarity, focus, and alignment. Shadow work meditation, confronting the inner adversary. To reclaim the will, one must face and integrate the shadow, the unacknowledged fears, desires, and aspects of the self that undermine volitional mastery. Set the scene. Sit in a quiet, dimly lit space. Close your eyes and focus on your breath. Enter the shadow space. Visualize yourself descending into a vast cave, the symbolic space of your unconscious mind. Meet the shadow. Imagine a figure emerging from the darkness. This is your shadow, an embodiment of what you fear or avoid within yourself. Observe it without judgment. Dialogue. Engage in a silent conversation with your shadow. Ask it what it needs, what it fears, and what it can teach you. Integration. As the dialogue concludes, visualize the shadow merging into your body, its energy becoming a part of your strength. This practice is not a one-time event, but an ongoing journey. Each encounter deepens self-awareness and transforms inner conflict into inner power. Part 3, strengthening the will, practical exercises. Obstacles as training grounds, hormesis of the mind. Every obstacle is an opportunity to strengthen the will. This principle is practiced through deliberate exposure and controlled challenges, both mental and physical. Cold exposure. Take cold showers or immerse yourself in cold water. The discomfort trains your ability to endure and focus your will. Mental challenges. Engage in tasks that require intense focus and persistence, such as solving complex problems or mastering a new skill. Physical strain. Push your body through exercise or physical labor, using each moment of struggle as a reminder of your capacity to overcome and endure. Approach each challenge with the mindset that it is a gift, a chance to refine your volitional mastery. Volitional anchoring, rituals of alignment. Create daily rituals that anchor your will to your highest intentions. Morning intention setting. Upon waking, spend 5 minutes visualizing your goals for the day and aligning them with the divine will. Evening reflection. Before sleeping, journal your success, struggles, and moments of alignment. Reflect on how you can refine your actions tomorrow. Symbolic tokens. Carry a small object, example, a stone or a pendant, that symbolizes your will. Use it as a reminder of your commitment to the path. Part 4, the divine synthesis, merging the will with the infinite. The ultimate goal of the Volitist practice is the alignment of the individual will with the divine. This is not an act of submission, but of transcendence, a harmonization of the finite and the infinite. The breath of unity. This advanced practice involves synchronizing breath, intention, and visualization. Inhale. Breathe deeply, imagining the divine flowing into you. Pause. At the peak of the breath, affirm silently, I align my will with the divine. Exhale. Release the breath, visualizing your individual intentions merging with the greater cosmic order. Repeat. Continue until you feel a profound sense of unity and peace. These practices form the backbone of the Volitist path, empowering the individual to reclaim their agency, overcome suffering, and step into alignment with the divine will. Each is a step towards mastery, a movement from the simulacrum towards transcendence. Chapter 5. The Volitist in Harmony. Seeking understanding, the mirror of projection. Volitism teaches that the external world is not separate from the internal, but a projection of the fractured psyche, mirroring the divine Godhead's shattering into individuated experiences. This fundamental principle invites the Volitist to approach conflict, tension, and suffering as reflections of inner disunity. The shadow as a reflection of the fracture. When tensions arise, they are not merely external disruptions, but symbolic echoes of the internal fracture. The Volitist asks, what shadow of mine might this interaction reflect? What can this conflict teach me about my will, my fear, or my attachments? This process reframes the external world as a mirror, a projection of the unresolved, fragmented aspects of the psyche. Each interaction becomes a revelation of the internal struggle to reunify the fractured will with the divine. For example, a confrontation with a controlling individual may reveal a disowned fear of chaos within yourself. Witnessing injustice may stir dormant guilt or anger about your own complicity or passivity. Feeling rejected might expose a shadow rooted in self-worth or attachment. The fractured world as a symbolic stage. Building on the cosmological idea that the universe is a projection of the shattered divine Godhead, every experience in the external world becomes a symbolic teaching. The material plane is the stage on which the fractured divine will plays out its story of separation and reunion. A Volitist views every conflict, every joy, every loss as part of this grand narrative. The question is not just, why is this happening to me? But what does this symbolize in the journey towards wholeness? For instance, the forces of attraction and repulsion in relationships reflect the interplay of creation and annihilation within the universe. This mirrors the dance of particles and antiparticles, as well as the synthesis of opposing archetypes within the psyche. Tensions as catalysts for reunification. Rather than resisting or escaping conflict, the Volitist engages with it as an essential catalyst for reclaiming volitional agency and integrating fractured aspects of the self. Conflict is the alchemical fire through which the will is purified and made whole again. Practices for engaging the projection. Projection journaling. Reflect on external tensions or conflicts and identify what internal shadow or archetype they might symbolize. Fracture meditation. Visualize the external world as a projection of the internal divine fracture. See each interaction, person, or challenge as a symbolic fragment of yourself seeking reintegration. Empathy through the lens of projection. Volitism's understanding of projection fosters not only self-awareness, but also deep empathy. Recognizing that others, like yourself, are projections of this fractured divine psyche, you can view their struggles, fears, and actions as symbolic mirrors of your own inner dynamics. Universal archetypes in others. Just as your external world reflects your internal state, so does everyone else's. By recognizing the archetypal struggles within others, you can dissolve judgment and foster compassion. This person's anger mirrors my own suppressed rage. Their fear reflects the vulnerability I deny within myself. This realization doesn't mean condoning harmful actions, but understanding their roots in the fractured psyche. Through this lens, empathy becomes a form of healing, both for yourself and others, as you see their journey as intrinsically tied to yours. Practices for empathy and projection. Archetypal mapping. When encountering someone's struggle, ask what archetype they might embody and how it resonates with your own journey. Mirror work with others. In moments of tension, silently ask, what shadow of mine might this person reflect? Chapter 5.5, Rewilding the Mind, Detoxifying the Pollutants of the Simulacrum. To reclaim agency of the will and align it with the divine, the Volitist must first recognize the distortions introduced by the artificial simulacrum. The simulacrum, a web of false narratives, social constructs, and symbolic pollution, clouds perceptions, leading the individual further from the true divine intent. It distorts the external world's reflection of the internal psyche, leaving the images fractured and unclear. The polluted mirror of the simulacrum. In its natural state, the external world functions as a pure mirror of the internal psyche, reflecting its beauty and harmony. However, the simulacrum acts as a pollutant, warping this reflection. Advertisements, propaganda, and the superficial ideas fill the mirror with false images, obscuring the divine truths beneath. Where the divine might project symbols of growth and connection, the simulacrum overlays them with superficial desires and distractions. Archetypal struggles become commodified, reducing profound spiritual tensions to fleeting consumerist impulses. The Volitist understands that to see the world as it truly is, and to reunite with the divine will, the mind must be rewilded, stripped of the simulacrum's toxins. Rewilding the mind. Rewilding the mind is a process of shedding artificial constructs and returning to a state of mental clarity and authentic perception. It is an act of liberation, breaking free from the simulacrum's illusions and reconnecting with the uncorrupted truth of existence. Through rewilding, the Volitist begins to see the projection more clearly. As the simulacrum's pollutants are removed, the external world begins to reflect the internal psyche with greater fidelity. The fractured images become sharper and closer to the divine will's original intent. Reclaim true desire. The simulacrum implants false desires rooted in ego and consumerism. Rewilding reveals the soul's true desires, which are in harmony with the divine. Strengthen the will. A rewilded mind is unburdened by the distraction, allowing the will to focus with clarity and resilience on its journey towards enlightenment with the divine. Practices for rewilding the mind. Digital detox. Reduce exposure to social media, advertising, and other forms of artificial input that reinforce the simulacrum. Nature immersion. Spend time in nature, observing the uncorrupted symbolism and rhythms. Nature reflects the divine with far greater clarity than the artificial constructs of the simulacrum. Symbolic reflection. Engage with symbols that resonate deeply with your internal psyche, bypassing the simulacrum's superficial imagery. Seeing with greater clarity, the alignment of the vision and will. As the mind is rewilded, the Volitist perception of the external world becomes ever more faithful to the divine. The fractured, distorted images of the simulacrum give way to a truer reflection of the internal psyche. The world no longer appears as a chaotic projection of separation, but as a unified field of symbolic resonance, where every interaction, every conflict, every joy aligns with the true divine intent. The conversion of vision and will. With clear perception comes greater alignment of the will with the divine. As the Volitist purifies their vision, they begin to see the symbolic meaning behind every relationship. The once scattered fragments of the psyche coalesce into a coherent, unified force. The Volitist will becomes resilient, no longer swayed by the simulacrum's illusions, focused, directed towards the pursuit of true meaning and alignment, harmonized, flowing naturally with the rhythms of the divine will. From reflection to revelation. The external world, once distorted by the simulacrum, now serves as a luminous guide. Each interaction reveals not only the state of the Volitis' internal psyche, but also the deeper truth of the divine's unfolding narrative. The journey towards alignment becomes one of revelation, where the line between individual will and the divine will begins to blur. Empathy, projection, and the true divine intent. As the Volitis rewilds their mind and purifies their vision, their empathy for others deepens. With a clearer understanding of the fractured psyche, they recognize that others' struggles and actions are projections of the same divine fracture they themselves are healing. This fosters compassion without attachment, an ability to support others on their journey without becoming entangled in the simulacrum's false dynamics. By embodying this clarity, the Volitis becomes a beacon of enlightenment, inspiring others to begin their own process of rewilding and reclamation. Practices for embodying alignment. Mirror meditation. Sit quietly and imagine the external world as a reflection of your internal psyche. Ask, what does this reflection reveal about the state of my will? Vision training. Practice seeing beyond the simulacrum by interpreting everyday interactions as symbolic projections. Focus on what these symbols teach about alignment with the divine. Will alignment journaling. At the end of each day, reflect on moments your will felt aligned or misaligned with the divine, and identify the influence of the simulacrum. Conclusion. The ascension of the Volitist. As the journey through Volitism unfolds, it becomes evident that the path is not one of mere self-improvement or abstract philosophical musings, but a profound odyssey, a reclamation of agency, purpose, and truth. The Volitist does not seek to conquer the external world, but to master the inner domain, to harmonize the fractured will with the divine, and to restore clarity to the projection of existence itself. The external world, once perceived as chaotic and fractured, is now understood as a symbolic manifestation of the internal psyche, a canvas upon which the divine paints its intent. Through rewilding the mind, shedding artificial constraints of the simulacrum, and embracing practices and principles outlined in this treatise, the Volitis embarks on a transformative process. It is a journey of individuation and of integration, one that transcends suffering and culminates in the alignment with the true divine will. A call to agency. The philosophy of Volitism demands action. Understanding is not enough. One must take the principles from this treatise and actively embody them, rewild the mind, reclaim the will, face the shadow with courage and curiosity. The simulacrum will not willingly release its hold. Its illusions will beckon and distract. But the Volitis recognizes these temptations as opportunities, each one a reflection of the fractured psyche awaiting integration. The Volitis does not shy away from suffering, but sees it as a crucible, a tension that, when embraced and transcended, forges a stronger, purer will. In every challenge lies an invitation to grow, refine, and to ascend. The path to harmony. As the Volitis reclaims agency and aligns their will with the divine, they begin to experience a profound harmony. No longer are they at odds with the currents of life. Instead, they move with the rhythm of the cosmos, guided by an unshakable inner clarity. Obstacles no longer appear as insurmountable barriers, but as necessary tensions that lead to synthesis and growth. This harmony is not the absence of struggle, but a dynamic interplay, a dance with the divine. It is a state of flow where the individual will and the divine will become indistinguishable. This is the ultimate goal of Volitism, to become not merely a participant in life, but a co-creator, embodying the divine intent with every thought, word, and action. A living philosophy. Volitism is not static. It is not a doctrine to be memorized or a rigid system to be followed. It is a living philosophy, one that evolves as the Volitist evolves. Each individual's journey adds to the tapestry of Volitism, enriching it with new insights and perspectives. It is a collaborative effort, a shared vision that grows and adapts to the needs of those who walk the path. Let this treatise be your guide, but not your limitation. Question it, test it, refine it. For in doing so, you contribute to the very essence of Volitism, the perpetual pursuit of truth, alignment, and transcendence. A final reflection. The path of the Volitist is not an easy one. It requires courage, discipline, and an unwavering commitment to truth. But it is also a path of profound fulfillment, offering the promise of a life lived in harmony with the divine. As you stand at the threshold of this journey, ask yourself, are you ready to confront the shadows within and see the world as a mirror of your psyche? Are you prepared to rewild your mind, cast off illusions of the simulacrum, and embrace unfiltered truth and existence? Are you willing to reclaim your will and align it with the divine, becoming a force of creation, clarity, and compassion in the world? If the answer is yes, then the journey has already begun. Step forward with purpose, for the divine awaits, not in some distant heaven, but within you. Fractured perhaps, but yearning to be whole. The path is yours to walk, the will yours to reclaim, and the divine yours to embody. This is the way of the Volitist. Volitional descent and reclamation. If you've made it this far, congratulations. We now introduce you to a uniquely Volitist practice developed by myself and Apeiron. In theory, and for myself in practice, it has proved invaluable for accessing the recesses of the mind. Unique to Volitism, but based off the principles of EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and REM sleep, REM, rapid eye movement, sleep, I will now introduce you to this new proprietary and experimental Volitist practice. VDR is a method for reclaiming volitional energy hijacked by unresolved subconscious forces. It is not mere introspection, but a systematic descent into the deep psyche, where fragmented will is trapped in feedback loops of emotion, memory, and archetypal fixation. By retrieving these lost aspects, the practitioner reintegrates their will, restoring volitional mastery. This method is structured as a guided descent through layers of the mind, locating the trapped will, and performing a reclamation directive to reintegrate it. Foundational preparation and ritualistic anchoring. Setting the stage, anchoring into the divine will. Before beginning the descent, the practitioner must establish the foundation. 1. The sacred space. Choose a quiet location, free from distractions. Sit on the ground, dignified posture, spine erect, shoulders back but relaxed. Once again, we imagine a golden thread extending from the crown of your head, tethering you to the divine will, a direct connection to the source of unbroken volition. Parasympathetic breathwork, the physiological gait. To quiet the nervous system, engage in a 4-6-8 breath cycle. Inhale through the nose for 4 seconds, filling the lower lungs. Hold the breath for 6 seconds, feeling the stillness. Exhale through pursed lips for 8 seconds, fully releasing the tension. Repeat 6 cycles, allowing the mind to enter a calm, lucid state. The triangular flame, the liminal eye. Light 3 candles, arranging them in a triangle before you. Relax the eyes into liminality, neither fully open nor shut, neither active nor passive. Allow the subconscious to guide your gaze, moving freely between candles without conscious control. As the eyes move, repeat the following affirmation. I descend with clarity. I descend with strength. I descend to reclaim my will. This creates a physiological entrainment effect, priming the mind for deep retrieval work. The descent, locating the fragment. Every hijacked volitional fragment exists in a loop, an unresolved cycle of thought, emotion, or belief. This loop is sustained by somatic anchor, a physical sensation or tension pattern, emotional charge, the affective energy keeping it active, the affective energy keeping it active, narrative construct, the conscious or subconscious story reinforcing it, and temporal fixation, the past event or events it remains trapped in. Practical steps. The trigger invocation. Begin by identifying a situation that provokes a loss of volition, hesitation, compulsion, avoidance, fixation. Somatic mapping. Locate where it manifests in the body. Tightness in the chest, tension in the jaw, sinking in the gut, etc. Emotion identification. Define the core affective charge: shame, guilt, rage, fear, grief. Loop recognition. Observe the narrative or belief structure sustaining it. Temporal descent. Follow the thread to its earliest known occurrence, seeking its root imprint. The limbo state, entering the fragment's domain. The fragment of will is locked in a frozen cycle, perceiving reality through its own distortions. It operates as a sub-personality, reliving the moment as if it were still real. At this stage, the practitioner enters a heightened state of receptivity, not to re-experience pain, but to witness the trapped fragment directly. Practical steps. The observer's stance. Shift from "I am reliving this" to "I am witnessing this fragment." 2. Archetypal identification. What persona is this fragment embodying? The shamed child, the exile, the martyr, the failure, the betrayed? 3. Loop disruption. What falsehood sustains its loop? Identify its primary distortion. Example, am I unworthy? Am I powerless? Will I always be abandoned? 4. Revelation threshold. What truth does this fragment refuse to see? Reclamation, the will's return. Once the fragment is exposed, it must be reclaimed. This is done through the reclamation directive, a spoken decree that collapses the loop and retrieves the will. Practical steps. 1. Volitional command. Speak directly to the fragment. This moment is no longer real. You are no longer bound to it. 2. Truth confrontation. Reveal the hidden reality the fragment refused. You are not powerless. You were never truly abandoned. You are whole. 3. Will reintegration. Pull the fragment back into the self. I reclaim this part of my will. I call it back into my being. 4. Somatic affirmation. Feel the shift in the body sensation, confirming the release. Sometimes the shoulders will drop, the jaw will drop and loosen, and you will feel a great feeling of tension release. The sealing. Integration into the whole. The final step cements the reclaimed will within the practitioner's totality. Practical steps. 1. The breath seal. Take 3 slow breaths, visualizing the fragment merging back into the center of the will. 2. Symbolic act. Perform a deliberate action symbolizing reclamation, clenching the fist, writing the final truth, stepping forward. 3. Final declaration. Speak aloud. This will is mine. It is restored. Remember, we create what we speak. Closing notes. The eye as the gateway to reclamation. The human eye is a black hole, a singularity where perception and reality collapse into unity, where light meets darkness and the material meets the spiritual. It is the liminal threshold between worlds, the microcosmic order of the vast cosmic machinery. Just as a black hole bends space-time, drawing all within its event horizon, so too does the eye bend perception, shaping the world as it's received by consciousness. In VDR, the act of moving the eyes between the three candles is more than a mere focus exercise. It is the mechanism by which the practitioner accesses the deepest layers of the subconscious. This movement is not random. It is guided by the silent hand of the will, a process mirroring the way the mind naturally accesses memory and integrates meaning. As the practitioner's vision traverses the triangular arrangement, they are performing a cosmic ritual in microcosm. The candlelight enters the eye, the black hole of perception, carrying with it the symbolic illumination of hidden truths. The eye absorbs the light, just as the subconscious absorbs experience, distilling it into understanding. The movement between the flames mimics shifting of awareness between past, present, and future, allowing the will to weave through temporal layers and retrieve what is lost. By gazing into these three burning points, the practitioner synchronizes the macrocosmic, spiritual divine with the microcosmic, personal, and physical. The light enters the abyss of the self, illuminating shadows, dissolving illusions, and harmonizing fractured volition. Thus, the eye is not merely an observer in this process. It is the active medium of transmutation. In this ritual, the practitioner is not only reclaiming the will, but also aligning their sight with true vision, restoring the sovereign gaze that perceives beyond illusion and the depths of reality itself. VDR is not therapy. It is a highly targeted method for reclaiming volitional power. It requires precise self-awareness, courage, and commitment to break deep-rooted loops. Over time, repeated practice erodes subconscious hijacking, restoring true autonomy.